Super Rugby Power Rankings, folks. Round number 12 is in the bag. We've had a few Trans-Tasman rounds now, and I think we're getting a clearer picture of where the teams are at. But anyway, we'll go through the 12 teams from bottom to top, and you guys can let me know on form who are the current teams to look for, and who do you think is maybe a little bit too high or too low. 12th spot is still the Fijian Drua. I have made a little bit of manual adjustment because I don't think the bottom of the table was looking, well, the power rankings was looking too flash, but the Drua have still come out bottom. 1 and 10, they got absolutely smashed by the Hurricanes, didn't they? I mean, the Fijian Drua looked defensively able to hold for about 10-15 minutes, and then the floodgates just opened, and they didn't really stop for the entire game, so that was a bit of a stinker. Yeah, what can I say? 1 and 10. It's an unfortunate one. The Force are still in 11th. They played at home, and unlike last week where it was kind of a like a valiant defeat, this ended up it was a first half which was okay, which is more than we can say for the Drua, but it was a second half hiding for the Force against the Crusaders. So there's no shame in losing to Crusaders, but they'll certainly be pretty gutted with the way the first half was good, and then the second half just kind of went to custard. Moana Pacifica I've got down here at one spot. Now, they're actually 12th on the log with only one win from 10 games, 9 losses for them. So all these three, there's 4 wins between them. The Force have had 2, and then the Drua and the Moana guys have had 1 each. There's not much between them. Interestingly, Moana Pacific is playing the Drua next. It's an away game for Moana, but it's like in Parramatta, I think. So it's not exactly kind of a classic home game for the for the Drua boys. So the Moana guys don't have to face that Fijian crowd, which might make it a bit more of a neutral venue. But yeah, that's going to be an interesting one to see basically who's the worst team in Super Rugby. Still a couple of rounds to go, but yeah, it's not been the best season for these guys. I do have the Rebels, even though they got absolutely smacked by the Blues. I did a little bit of adjustments at the bottom of the table because I didn't think it was a fair reflection. And the Rebels have legit got as many wins. Well, they got more wins Moana and Drua put together. So they got 3 wins. But they played the top of the table Blues and got an absolute hiding, didn't they? They even got gifted a 14-point lead and still didn't even get close. So, yeah. The review's going to be pretty brutal. That's going on for the Rebels boys this Monday. The Highlanders I have got in 8th spot, which is the same as last week. Despite the fact that they got an away win over the Reds, I'm not putting kind of too much credit into it. And remembering that the Highlanders' record is 3 and 8, the next best team has 6 wins. So it's kind of hard to put the Highlanders too much higher than 8, but they are 2 wins on the bounce now, albeit over the Drua, who I've got bottom, and then the Reds, who are playing a bit rubbish. But still, credit to them. They're up in the calculation, but just not up on the actual whiteboard, if that kind of makes sense. They've got the Force next, so they may be able to make it 3 wins on the trot. The Reds, as I mentioned, they've been having kind of a pretty bad 3 rounds, haven't they? That's 3 losses on the bounce for them, and I don't know, man. They're just looking a bit of a shadow of the team that started this season. I know it's playing Kiwi teams. I know it's without the big guns of James O'Connor, and it's been partly without Pataya and without Taniela Tupou, but still, the Reds need to be doing better than that. They're now 7 and 4, so if they keep losing and they've got the Blues away, they'll be looking at, just kind of scraping through at the bottom end of the top 8. But they're still, they're still in 6th at the moment with a 7 and 4 record, kind of resting on their laurels of those earlier wins. I've got the Canes above them because the Canes, I reckon, are in slightly better form at the moment. They gave the Drua a big old hiding. The Canes are 6 and 5. They've also got an interesting test up against the Waratahs next, because it'll be a bit of another a bit of an indicator of where both those sides are at, because the Waratahs kind of, they struggled in their last game, but they have beaten the Crusaders, which is more than we can say for a lot of teams. So, yeah, question marks there, which will soon be answered. And the Chiefs falling from grace. Were they contenders or pretenders? Well, based on their game against the Brumbies, they looked a bit more like pretenders. 7-4 is their record, which is still in positive territory. They're 4th on the actual table. They get a chance to play the Rebels next away from home, but they should be able to bounce back. But yeah, in some of the big games that they needed to get results, home at the Crusaders, lost. Home to the Blues, lost. Home to the Brumbies, lost. Yeah, the Chiefs, inconsistent is kind of putting it kindly. That leaves the Waratahs up in 4th, and I'm a little bit hesitant about seeing the Tars there. But 2 wins in a row, beat the Crusaders, big credit for that. Away win at Moana, Pacifica, kind of just barely. So they kind of showed us, I don't know, is it like two faces? Like the team which beats the Crusaders struggles against Moana, Pacifica. I don't know, man. It's it's tough to see. But as I said, they've got the Canes next, so I think I'm gonna back the Canes for that one. But we will have to wait and see. If the side that beat the Crusaders shows up, we can be confident for the Tars. They're gonna show us something. But if they're a bit stuck in third gear again, then yeah, they might get a hard day at the office. The Crusaders I've gotten 3rd. Same as last week. They did get a big old win against the Force. And their record is still looking pretty solid with 8-3. But finally, credit to the Brumbies, who are up another spot. Or is it up 2 spots? They've been kind of inching their way up the power rankings. They initially ranked them a wee bit low, with the bulk of their wins coming over Aussie teams at the start of the season. That's just the way the comp rolled. But that win over the Chiefs, I've got to give them the credit. They're 10-1. They're looking the business. But they've got the Crusaders next. So we'll find out who should be 2 and who should be 3 in that next game. Still got my Blues here in 1st. The more the season goes on, the slightly more comfortable I'm getting having the Blues 1st. They conceded a 14-point lead and then proceeded to put the Rebels to the sword. Now, if you give other teams like the Crusaders or the Brumbies, even the Chiefs or the Canes a 14-point lead, you may find yourself facing a bit of an uphill battle, but the Blues ended up doing that one over the Rebels in an absolute canter. So there you go, folks. Power rankings for round 12. We've only got a few rounds to go before we hit the business end of the competition. Remember, the top 8 teams make it. So I would hazard a guess that as we sit here, who's the 8th ranked team? The 8th ranked team at the moment is the Highlanders, with the Rebels 9th, Force 10th, Drua and Pacifica finishing 11 and 12. I don't think that's going to change. I reckon, well, the top 8 positions will change, but I still reckon it's these 4 that miss out on the playoffs based on what we've seen in recent weeks. But you guys let me know what you reckon. And yes, I will talk to you guys again soon. See you later.